the lesson plan that I have created for the following standard, which would apply to 11th and 12th graders, secondary. Apply knowledge of language to understand how language functions in different contexts, to make effective choices for meaning or style, and to comprehend more fully when reading or listening. So keep in mind this presentation is geared more towards adults and explaining the standard and more or less the process I would perform upon explaining and teaching this to students over the course of a week. Continuing forward. So a big part of this standard would be the choosing the correct language, and really kind of bolstering your vocabulary. Student vocabulary, um, student writer vocabulary, and expansion of comprehension, um, techniques they can use to bolster said writing. So, for instance, I wrote "The man ate a burger," basic, simple sentence, and we have that basic, simple sentence versus the following sentence, which is far more innate, a lot more advanced, if you will, in regards to what details it provides and to how in depth it goes into the situation. So, again, we have a situation very simplistic, easy to understand. The man ate a burger versus the famished, desperate gentleman collapsed into the In-N-Out, calling out for a double double as if he might swoon if he went a second longer without one. He then proceeded to gluttonously enjoy it both audibly and visually amongst several mortified patrons in the lobby. Right? So we have a lot more going on. It's obviously more story oriented to obviously write the sentence this way, and the contrast is what I want students to pay attention to in this slide specifically, so they can kind of see what needs to be bolstered or what a way in which to improve, right? So again, this next slide, techniques to develop better writing. I have a little quick tip section right over here. Read more, talk more, and listen more. These are just core communicating kind of aspects and concepts that students, on a general note, should they do these things, they can often improve their communication across the board, right? Um, More formally, though, develop a process that works for you. So, again, this is techniques to develop better writing. One of those, and one of the most important ones, being develop a process that works and is individual to that student. Whatever works for that writer, they want to pursue that route. If I'm presenting a technique that doesn't really appeal to that writer, of course, I would advise that they do not use it and pursue something more relevant to their style, their personality. Brainstorming is a solid starting point, meaning most students, just especially at this level, should be participating in some form of brainstorming. And again, that circles back to developing a process that works for you. The type of brainstorming that works best for you is the one that you should pursue when writing whatever it is that is requested of you. Revision should be calculated and done by a peer who is brutally honest. I included that peer who is brutally honest kind of after note. Revision, obviously, super important, but you also do not want friends who are not going to pick up on certain aspects of your writing that someone who is more direct and advanced would, right? You want somebody who's going to be a big critic of your writing, not, evil or maybe over the top in how they dissect your paper. But you do want someone who is at least, displayed signs of advanced writing and kind of editing skills before. That's the person you want to work with when you're writing something and to make your writing better. Outline what your writing is about with lots of details. I forgot to mention that the outline in this particular case should be approved by the instructor. That assures that the topic is student appropriate and that it can be something the writer can pursue. Plenty to do with. Summarization, paraphrasing, and citing evidence. I wanted to distinctly separate these so that students are kind of aware of how and why we are using these concepts. Starting with summarization, which is entirely original and a take developed by the writer to provide an encapsulated version of the content being summarized. Meaning, you take a novel or whatnot, and you're able to kind of boil that down to just a few sentences without obviously going into too much detail, just a generic kind of overlay of what happened in the story. Paraphrasing, on the other hand, I would tend to say is a little more centered or specific. Although it does not keep or use the original text, it is essentially taking a line or a bit from the source material and putting it in your own words. Again, I think we've heard that a lot, is paraphrasing, putting in your own words. Citing evidence is a verbatim sourcing used most often in support of opinion or other statement. That's just fancy for I can use evidence from the story, I can use evidence from what I have read in order to defend my opinion of it. And finally, or almost finally, second finally, writing is your chance to demonstrate your individual intelligence. I have kind of pursued a lot on individual intelligence and kind of developed that, that is more or less a real thing. Students certainly have their own individual abilities, strengths, weaknesses. But I definitely would say that students also have individual intelligence, smarts in the sense of what they are interested in, they can be really good at, or they can really have a lot of potential for. Communication is applicable to multiple facets of life, and whether you feel confident or wary in your ability to express, writing with intention can be a ticket to developing into an effective communicator. Um, in addition to having your individual or kind of your personal intelligence, um, again, that's sort of the smarts, the interest you hold, and the potential you have to really kind of elaborate or pursue those strengths, right? And communication is certainly applicable to all that. No matter what type of intelligence you are deemed or consider yourself having, communicating it to the rest of the world is going to be a big component of that. In summation, again, this would be typically right before I have students form the summative assessment, which would include writing an essay using one form of brainstorming, a formal outline with instructor approval, and a 1 to 2